It's lovely to see you today. Are you happy to see me? So we're going to be doing a little Fewmin Friday today. I'm not actually even producing like a full makeup look. I got a delivery from Look Fantastic of some nice shiny new products. So before I use them properly and try and do a look, I thought I just want to have a little play with them, see how they feel, see how they go on. So I'm really just going to be having a little mess around while I talk. Also, if my hands look really grubby and I've got no nails on, it's because I'm halfway through renovating and decorating my new vlogging space. So I will have a dedicated space for these videos. I know I'm taking this very seriously now. So there's a lot going on my end, but I haven't forgotten about you all, and thank you. I know some people have tipped through Buy Me a Coffee and joined the membership program. So thank you so much. I really fucking appreciate it because I love doing this shit. Please don't think I'm neglecting you. I'm actually making things better. Yay! I'm not going to really talk about the products at all that I'm using. I will just be faffing around with them on my face, having a little play with them. But next week I'm going to do a full makeup tutorial because people on my socials have been asking for me to do just some makeup tutorials. So I'm going to use these products. So I'm going to play with them and then do a full tutorial for you folks who are interested in the makeup side next week. So, what has got me fuming this Friday? What do I need to get off my chest? Okay. I watched The Vanishing at the Cecil. They all pronounced it Cecil, but they were all American, so I'm thinking, like, to us Brits it'd be Cecil, but I'll say Cecil just to go with the programme. I watched on Netflix The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. Have you seen this? It is a very interesting documentary. It's a very good documentary. I've had it on while I've been painting and stripping, not stripping my clothes off, stripping wallpaper. Be a bit weird to have like a crime documentary on while you were stripping, wouldn't it? Maybe that could be a new niche. Oh, stumbled onto a moneymaker here. USP, have crime documentary on while you're getting your tits out. Oh, this could work. Anyway. As I was watching this documentary, it just really set my mind off in so many directions. So today we are talking about internet sleuths, conspiracy theorists, and woo fanatics. So this documentary focuses on the disappearance of Elisa Lam. Now, I have heard of this case before, and when I've heard of it, it's been on like mystery programs or like strangest crimes, you know, things like that, where I've heard this story of a girl's body being discovered in a water tower, but like there was no way she could have gotten in there, you know, no one could have carried the body up the ladder, and she couldn't have gone in herself and shut the door to the water tower. So like, how did it happen? So when it came on and I realised that's what this case was about, I was quite intrigued because I thought, ooh, I do like a little mystery. And it comes back to that. It's perfectly normal to enjoy a bit of mystery. And, you know, especially where it is a conundrum and there are unanswered questions that you just want to know. It is complete human nature to want to know why. And that's why, as humans, we've managed to progress to the point we have in terms of maths, science, technology, because someone sat down somewhere and looked at the world. Toddlers do it, mate. If you've ever had a toddler or a small child, you know that all they're ever asking is why? But it's human curiosity to want to know. So I think in my head, I thought this was some unsolved mystery. It's not. And the case has had a conclusion, and it came to a fairly reasonable conclusion. So I'm not going to go into the full ins and outs of the Elisa Lam case. Go watch the documentary if you haven't and you want to know the ins and outs of the Elisa Lam case. But basically, as soon as I started watching it and I seen the video that they released, which is the infamous elevator video, straight away as soon as worked in criminal justice, when these sleuths started saying, oh, someone slowed the video down, I was like, well, yeah, that's not uncommon, because if you want someone to have a good chance of recognising the person in the video, it's really common to slow the video down so that people have got a better chance of getting a good look at her face. And also, when it were reading out her Tumblr blogs, and she mentioned being bipolar, and then it showed this elevator video, I was like, that is really classic kind of behaviour for someone who's potentially having a psychotic episode or a manic episode. I mean, I've worked with people who have been quite unwell, and you know, I've seen that kind of behaviour. And when the coroner did the post-mortem, you know, it turns out that she didn't have the levels they would have expected of her medication. She took quite a lot of different medications for her bipolar in her system. And when they then checked her prescription bottles against, you know, when she was next due to refill, there weren't as many pills gone as should have been. And basically, yeah, she hadn't been taking her medication. It looked likely she'd had a manic episode or a psychotic episode. She'd been moved out of the room she'd been sharing with other girls, other travellers, because of her behaviour. Really unusual, strange behaviour, leaving notes on their beds, written notes saying go away. So yeah, it was obvious really to anyone who sort of got that mental health background or knowledge that she just wasn't very well. And I can understand why the case drew so much interest, because if I'd just seen that elevator video, right, with no context, I would have been like, this is fucking weird. This is weird. It was weird. And it was also the fact that her body didn't get found for, I think it was 19 days. And her body only got found because all the drinking water in the hotel the guests were showering in and drinking started coming out the taps black and brown. So they sent someone up to investigate, and that's when her body was found. And I think that extra twist to this tale makes it more like something out of a horror movie, doesn't it? Like, they, in this documentary, show some of the guests and they interview them that were staying in the hotel, and they were like, we've been drinking that water. We showered in it, brushed our teeth, it tasted horrible. And you're like, as soon as they started saying the water in the hotel, the guests had been complaining about it and it had gone black, I was like, she's in the fucking water supply, isn't she? I knew straight away, but I mean, gruesome, like, that would traumatise you for life. So there was so much to this case that I can see why it captured imaginations. But what pricked me up and made me really angry, what I'm fuming about over this, was these internet sleuths picked this case up. So like these YouTubers on social media, they picked this case up and decided they were going to solve it. They decided that there was some sort of conspiracy and cover-up happening. First of all, they were saying that the hotel were in on it and they were covering it up, and then they reckoned it was someone in the police, and then like by the end of it they were reckoning she was like a secret agent for the CIA or something, and that she had been sent there to release TB into the homeless community on Skid Row. Like, when I say these conspiracy theories went off the wall, they went off the fucking wall. And if you watched my True Crime Tuesday I did about the Sarah Payne case, the general public can be really helpful. Like, if that woman hadn't found Sarah's shoe, that case might never have been solved. They might have never actually had enough on Whiting to convict him, and he might have hurt someone else. In the case of Richard Ramirez, if you've watched the Night Stalker documentary, another one, fucking brilliant documentary, I do want to talk about that as well. I think I might do a True Crime Tuesday about it, because the fact that man has a fan club. That man has a fan club. What the fuck? Fucking weirdos. Anyway. The public, the community recognised Ramirez. They literally chased him down and they held him for the police. So the public can be helpful. And you know, there have been cases where internet sleuths have spotted something or dug something up, but doesn't happen all that often. And even I know that there's facts that are withheld from the general public. They very often do it in crimes that haven't been solved yet, so that if someone comes forward and goes, it was me, I did it, people will come forward and claim cases. Like, say, yeah, that was me, I killed that person, and they fucking didn't. There's so many false confessions. It was a case in the Night Stalker documentary. We saw how information being released to the public actually nearly ruined that case, because they had kept things back so that when they caught the guy or the suspect, they knew which shoes he wore, or they knew what had been written on the walls. So if they got any people coming forward going, yeah, it's me, I'm the Night Stalker, and they ask them to describe the crime scene and they don't describe the stuff written on the walls, they know that they're just using what they've read in the paper and that they're just a loony. But very often information is held back, and as a police officer, as someone who's investigating a case, as someone who lives it, breathes it, and, you know, sets foot in those crime scenes, you have trained to do that job. You've done that job for years. The same with coroners, the same with crime scene investigators, on, you know, the scientists. All these people have spent years in education, in training. They've spent years working the job and honing their skills. Like, there is going to be plenty that they have seen, that they know about, that they've experienced. And I think it annoys me that then fucking Barbara, who's sat at home, you know, who's a stay-at-home mum with 3 kids, is sat on fucking Facebook going, have they checked this? Have they checked that? I'm going to go and investigate. I'm going to do some digging. I'm in a couple of true crime groups on Facebook, and you'd be amazed how many of these people, and it's predominantly women, interestingly, you would be amazed how many of them are convinced that they are like detectives. They're convinced that they're sleuths. And so what happened with these YouTubers was they became convinced there was a conspiracy going on, and they all started making videos about the elevator video and about the case, and they were annoyed that, like, they weren't getting information released to them quick enough. They really, like, took over this case. They really, like, got very heavily involved with it. And then when the coroner released his findings and said accidental death, they wouldn't have it. They were like, nah, no way, that's not correct. He doesn't know. This is a conspiracy. And it's like, you, what? What? Like, how can you, who has never been to that crime scene, never saw it, doesn't know all the background information, they haven't had access to Elisa's medical records, they don't know anything. And so what happened was, they decided they were going to track down the culprit for themselves, okay? And they started coming out with all these mad connections. Like, they were bringing up stuff that was wild, the connections they made. So first of all, they made a connection to the horror film Dark Water, and they were saying that film had a girl in it who climbed up on the roof and drowned in a water tower, and she was wearing a red coat, and Elisa found drowned in a water tower on top of a building, and she was wearing a red coat, and in the film brown water's coming out the taps, and that's what happened to the guests. Now, in the case of stuff like that, you know what? If people want to make videos connecting to a horror film, I guess it's harmless enough. But where it escalated was they found this black metal singer called Morbid, and they found a video on YouTube that showed he had been at the Cecil Hotel in 2012. And in one of his songs, he, you know, was, I say singing, it's sort of like yelling in it. It's a bit scary. He was singing about chasing a girl who was running away from him, and I think, like, murdering her. It's very morbid, and it's not, you know, my cup of tea. I wouldn't like listening to that music, but it is black metal, innit? You know, it's to do with morbidity and death. That was literally his performer name, is Morbid, you know. It's fantasy. So because of this connection, and also I think one of his songs had something about a Chinese girl in it, or a China girl, and Elisa Lam were Chinese. So they were like, that one YouTuber, she was there going, this can't be a coincidence. This can't be. It just can't be. There's too many connections. When I studied psychology, my psychology teacher did a really good demonstration with us. This is one of my first psychology lessons. Like, I'm talking like A-level psychology. Did a really good example with us where he said, ice cream causes cancer. We were all like, you what? You what, dickhead? And he said, ice cream causes cancer. And he said, there is evidence, I have got factual data here that states that the more people eat ice cream, the more likely they are to get skin cancer. And so obviously we all sat there and went, Do you not think, though, if people are eating like lots of ice cream, it might be because they're out in the sun a lot or go on holiday a lot or they're at the beach a lot, and so because they're out in the sun, they get skin cancer? And yeah, that was his whole point, that unless you're able to draw causation, correlation and causation are two different things. And it's very similar with these sort of conspiracy theorists and the sleuths, that just because you can make a connection, it doesn't mean that that is a tangible connection that proves anything. If you really want to, you can draw crazy conclusions from things that appear to connect to one another. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's based in fact. One that takes it over to sort of the conspiracy theory side is the Pizzagate shit. So like Pizzagate is the idea that there is an elite group of celebrities and government officials that are all in it together to cover up a massive paedophile ring. And the reason that they take children is because they harvest them for, I can't remember what the name of the chemical is that they're supposed to harvest from them. I'll go and look it up and I'll add it to the video. But they're harvesting this particular hormone or whatever it is that supposedly only children have, and then they inject it into their eyes, so that's what like gives them youth and energy. So these conspiracy theorist groups for Pizzagate, they claim that if anything has the pizza symbol on it, it's like a secret sign that that company or organisation or whatever it is in on this conspiracy. It's fucking wild. They produced this picture, and this image was of a load of celebrities with black eyes, and they were saying that this was proof that all these celebrities and public figures were in on this conspiracy because they all had black eyes, because they all had this child hormone injected into their eyes. And they were like, it can't be a coincidence. Can't be a coincidence. So this is where, for me, the conspiracy theorists and the internet sleuths, when they're just coming up with these batshit crazy theories, it's like, all right, Karen, and just let them be with it. But when it crosses over is when they start making wild accusations at individuals, at people. That's where, for me, it's like, this is fucking dangerous. So there are people who like send hate mail and death threats and asserts to these celebrities because they're convinced that they're like harvesting children's hormones. But at least with celebrities, they've sort of got legal teams and they've sort of got protection, and people sort of agree it's a bit of nonsense. What happened with this singer Murbid was that he woke up one day and one of his friends had messaged him, and the message was just like, dude, what did you do? And he was like, what? The next thing, he is on a news channel in Japan, I think it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was Japan, where they were like suggesting him as a potential suspect in the Elisa Lam case. Suddenly, this poor man's inbox is being flooded with accusations, messages saying, we know you're a murderer, we know what you did, you're not going to get away with this. I believe he lived in Mexico, and like the Mexican FBI turned up at his house, and he was able to show his passport that he'd been in Mexico at the time of the Elisa Lam disappearance. He hadn't left the country. He'd been in the recording studio actually recording a new album. He was able to show all of this and be like, listen, I've got nothing to do. I wasn't even in the fucking country. I got nothing to do with this. Well, do you think it stopped there for that poor man? Because these internet sleuths were so convinced that it was a conspiracy, that like it was being all covered up, his life was literally made a living hell. His YouTube channel got pulled, his Facebook got pulled, his Twitter, all his social media accounts. These internet sleuths bombarded them with like false reports. They reported him over and over again. All his accounts got removed. He's gone, no more social media presence. He's barred from other social media platforms. The man tried to kill himself and got put into a psychiatric hospital. Let that sit with you. This poor man who done fuck all wrong because of these crazy internet people who sit at home on YouTube thinking that they can do a better job than the professionals without any of the fucking knowledge, training, education or job experience, forced a man to suicide. And these people still have their fucking channels. How is that in any world acceptable? When we talk about cancel culture, why are these people not deplatformed? So that poor man who done nothing wrong but exist and make music, got his entire life taken away from him, tried to kill himself, ended up in a psychiatric hospital. And these fucking people who've got nothing better to do than sit around and come up with mad theories on the internet are walking free. They didn't leave the police to do their job and investigate it properly. And when the police came back and said this person isn't involved, go, okay. They were just like, this can't be correct. There's a conspiracy going on here and I'm going to solve it. Firstly, what gets someone to that point in life, right, where they fall down these rabbit holes and start believing this mental shit? What makes people think that they can do a professional's job better than a professional? Is some of it arrogance? I know that one of the blokes who were being interviewed on the Netflix documentary basically said that around the time of the Elisa Lam case, he was between jobs, he'd been made redundant, and that he was very low and that he wasn't in a good place in his life. And then he was describing, like, when Elisa's body was found, like, that he was grieving, like he'd lost a friend, and it's like, he didn't know her. He made it very much about himself. A lot of these sleuths made it about them. There was no concern for Elisa's family or what they wanted. It was like that was an afterthought. It was just all about them. It became a very selfish case from these people. But, you know, him saying he didn't really have a purpose, is that what it is? Is it people who've got nothing else going on in their life? Is that why in these true crime groups it's a lot of women? Is it a lot of bored stay-at-home mums? Is it, you know, a lot of women who maybe didn't get the chance to fulfill the dreams they would have liked to have had, and they have this idea in their head, you know, from watching these crime shows on TV about being like Dana Scully and like solving the conspiracies? And does it make life more exciting? Is it when people feel lost in their own lives that they have to find something? Is it the thinking that they're figuring out something that the experts don't know makes them feel like they're reasserting control back into the universe? It's very similar to when I was watching the Flat Earther documentary. That one as well, the Beyond the Curve documentary, was fascinating to me. The main guy that they were following in the documentary, who was a flat earther, I could see why he was deeply invested in the idea of flat earth. And I wondered towards the end if he even really still believed in it, because he basically had become a celebrity, and he'd been one of them people who'd been living in his basement with his, you know, mum. I don't think he was actually living in the basement. Maybe he was. But he was living in a house with his ma, and, you know, he wasn't anyone. And then getting into the flat earth and starting doing his YouTube around the flat earth. And I think he did a podcast and was talking about it. And then when he went to these flat earth events, he was, you know, being asked to sign stuff and to speak in front of hundreds of people, and was being treated like a celebrity. And for him, having gone from being nobody to being almost a mini celebrity within that community, you can see the appeal of that. Was it the fact that he didn't really have much going for him in life that sent him down the flat earth pathway in the first place? You know, to me it is batshit crazy, that conspiracy, because I just think, what would be the point of it? Why would every single government in the world suddenly unite over this one thing, even though they're at war and odds over everything else? Why would they all unite in this great secret? Why would every pilot, why would, you know, every astronaut, every scientist, why would they all unite in this lie? What's the point? That's what's missing from that one for me. At least with, like, the anti-vax conspiracies, you can sort of see where people are coming from, like to the reasoning behind why there could be a push to vaccinate people for money. And particularly in America, I can see why that is a held belief, because the American medical system is just for profit. But the sheer fact that so many people believe the flat earth conspiracy is a real thing is really concerning. Like, why are so many people now rejecting something that we proved hundreds of years ago? It's like going back in time. If you think about it in terms of numbers, there's far fewer people who like know shit, as in like can make a fucking rocket go into space. There's so few people who really understand really complex things, especially to do with science. When I even try and comprehend how big the universe actually is and how big I am compared to the Earth and then the solar system and then the universe, I have an existential crisis, because it's too much for most of us to cope with. We're just not smart enough. And then I'm part of the group of people that is fairly well educated, you know, got a degree or two, sort of got quite a good understanding of, you know, one specific subject or a couple of subjects, and can wrap our heads around, you know, a certain amount of stuff. That's all right. But there's a much larger number that have no higher education, no university education, don't understand how to read academic studies, you know, and that's all right, that's okay. I know academic privilege is a thing and educational privilege is a thing, I'm not criticising that. But what it makes me wonder is that why so many people are turning to these sort of conspiracy theories and being attracted to them, because the world is so big and there's so much that they don't understand, and they don't like the fact that they don't understand these things and have the knowledge. So if they can convince themselves that actually it's all bullshit and it's a big conspiracy and that they know, then it makes them feel more important in the world. When you're dealing with anti-vaxxers particularly, there's always those same comments of like, educate yourself, I've educated myself, wake up sheeple, I've researched, read the inserts, you know. And it's like the degree of fucking Google, innit? Like they've done a day's looking around the internet and watched some YouTube videos, and suddenly they're happily convinced that they know more than immunologists who've spent their whole fucking life studying concepts that you and I probably can't even understand. I wouldn't have a fucking clue. And at what point should we be stopping this? So I know that Facebook has started censoring anti-vax stuff, and I personally completely agree with that. You know, I'm sure I'm going to get some anti-vaxxers in my comments yelling at me now, but when you're following certain conspiracy theories, when you don't believe that we landed on the moon, like, that's fine, all right, if you don't want to believe that, great. It don't hurt no one, unless you're the fellow who decided to say that to Buzz Aldrin, who actually had landed on the moon, that he was a liar and part of the conspiracy, and he got punched in the face. Good. But when your indoctrination into these conspiracies starts to impact other people, so when you're an anti-vaxxer and you refusing to get a vaccination means that diseases that had been eradicated are suddenly back in the population, when it means that people's lives are being put at risk, is there a responsibility to censor that? When you had the Pizzagate conspiracy, do you remember when that got expanded to wafer, and someone decided that because there were wafer cabinets on their website that were like priced ridiculously high, and someone who actually knew about online sales said it was most likely because when they've sold out of something but they don't actually want to take the listing off because it's a pain up the arse, they basically put it at such a ridiculous price that no one will actually buy it. Some conspiracy theorists jumped on it and said that there were kids in these cabinets, okay? So if you purchased one of these very expensively priced cabinets, when it arrived, it'd have a kid in it. And it was something to do with the cabinets and like the furniture at Wayfair all has different names. But they happen to correlate that the names on these pieces of furniture were The same as names of missing children that have gone missing. Now, the thing is, I am damn sure, again, we're talking about the ice cream and cancer. Again, we're talking about the same sort of thing as the poor man Murbid who got accused in the case of Elisa Lam. It's these very strange connections people make that are just fucking coincidences. And the thing we do need to be worrying about is the people who do actually harm these children. You know, there is sex trafficking, absolutely there is. But they're not fucking hiding them in Wayfair cabinets. Like, there's far worse shit going on. And I think that's the thing. It detracts from the actual problems is one of my bugbears with this. But also, if people then stop shopping at Wayfair because they're convinced that they're in part of this Pizzagate and they're in child smuggling and trafficking, how's that fair to that business? They've done fuck all wrong. They've just ended up at the centre of another fucking crazy conspiracy theory. So, consequences. At what point do we make these people who come out with these fucking batshit crazy conspiracies and ones that actually impact people in their lives? I know people have a problem with cancel culture. I fucking don't. I think when you are peddling stuff that's so dangerous, you're impacting people's lives, you shouldn't be allowed to. If Twitter can remove fucking Donald Trump, they should be removing these people as well, because it's dangerous what they've done and what they're doing. It's actually dangerous. As I say, I know Facebook now is removing anti-vax stuff. They have to do like what us sex workers have to do on Instagram, where we have to write sex work like $3X. They have to write vaccine like with double brackets and ones and stuff, because if they write too much about vaccines and are seen to be promoting anti-vax, they'll get deplatformed. And I do personally think it's how it should be. There's free speech, and then there's chat and absolute wham that is killing people. Do you know that there are people who are into urine therapy and completely are convinced that drinking your own piss is a way to cure stuff, and that urine is sterile, and that anything natural is good and anything chemical is bad? They won't take paracetamol. They won't give the kids paracetamol. The kids have got temperatures of like 103, and they're giving them fucking essential oils and rubbing it onto infections. Like, I get it in America, where, as I said before, the healthcare system is very much profit above people, and for some people there is a lack of access. But when we're talking people in countries like Canada and the UK that have a national health service and there's no charge, or people who are wealthy and absolutely have the means to access decent healthcare, and they're purely on this crazy woo bandwagon thinking that they know more than medical doctors. They're accusing nurses of being ninja nurses and like trying to sneakily inject their babies. There's plenty about our governments to not trust. But do you really think that every single doctor in the world is paid off? Do you not think that there's a reason the only studies you can find that prove some of these things are on YouTube? The only people who are speaking out saying that they know the truth are on YouTube. There's no research, there's no empirical data, there's no peer-reviewed studies. Do you not think there's a reason for that? Does it not frustrate anyone else? Am I being really unreasonable on this? But if you want to believe conspiracy theories, if you want to be an internet sleuth, if you want to solve crimes and know how criminals' minds work, and you're happy to do that without interfering with investigations or with people's lives, or go in real life and contacting people, then literally fill your fucking boots. Like, as long as you are not hurting anyone, as long as you are not impacting the world around you, as long as you're not breaching the social contract that we all have living within a society, like, there's no harm in that. But if you are taking your sleuthing to the level where you think you're better and know more than police investigators, where you are contacting people off batshit theories with no evidence, just coincidences to harass them, if you're encouraging unsafe practices that literally could kill people, if you're encouraging other mums who've got a child with an infection, a very high temperature, not to go to the hospital because, like, you can't trust doctors, you need to stop. One of the things as well in this documentary at the Cecil Hotel was that people were booking into the hotel, like these internet sleuths, to film themselves in the hotel, and they were sneaking up onto the roof to see the water tower where she'd been found. Like, do you really think going there 6 months later you're going to find evidence that the police didn't? Like, that's fucked up. That's a bit fucked up, mate. Like, so I'm from Merseyside, and one of our most infamous cases was the James Bulger murder. Let me tell you this. When you're talking about that elevator video of Elisa Lam in the elevator, probably the video that everyone knows of that moment in the Strand shopping centre where John Venables and Robert Thompson take hold of little James Bulger's hands and lead him off away. That's probably one of the most infamous CCTV videos out there, mate. Probably one of the most infamous ones. I live on Merseyside. Do you think that every time I drive through Liverpool and I drive through Bootle, I stop and go in the new Strand shopping centre and go, this is the place, this is where it happened, with a camera on me, this is where they took him away? Like, that's dead fucked up. Don't do that shit. If you are deliberately going out your way to stay in a hotel that's a crime scene just because you wanna, like, get all excited and film yourself. Like, they were discreetly trying to film themselves walking down the corridors and trying to get up to the roof and find the elevator, and they're there in the elevator going, oh my god, like, I'm getting chills. Like, you know what, go get a job. If you think you are a detective and you think that you can solve them cases, go through the training, go get the degrees, go do the job, because what you're doing, it's just like, it's weird. It's a bit weird. It's really trauma porny. Who was that YouTuber that got cancelled because he went to that suicide forest in Japan and literally found a dead body and filmed it? Like, you's doing that. Do you know better? You people who go do that, literally. We're not talking like ghost stories. We're not talking about going to like places that are supposedly haunted and that shit. That's alright, do that. We're talking people. Real fucking people. Like, it's not even like from the time of Jack the Ripper. Like, I can get the Jack the Ripper tours. At least enough time has passed now that there's no direct relatives still alive. This happened, the Elisa Lam disappearance in 2013. Her parents are still alive, her family. All the people who knew her, really knew her, mate. Not just like watched her videos on YouTube and were like, I'm so connected. Like, the people who fucking knew her, they're all still alive. They're grieving. And you're there, oh my god, like in the hotel. I think it's a bit sick, to be honest. And I'm damn sure if I did all that shit, I'd get far more subscribers and views than I do right now. But what are we selling out for morality and integrity? Is that what it's about? Like, come on. This is my Fewmin Friday. Stop interfering. Like, sleuth in your armchair if you want. Pretend you're fucking Miss Marple and all that shit, but know when to fucking pack it in. So that's my fume for today. As you can see, I wasn't really doing a look. I was just playing around with the new things that I've ordered. But yeah, I'm going to have a bit more of a play with these products, and I'm going to do a full look with them next week. So if you are interested in little makeup tutorials, please keep your eye out for that. Please get involved in some conversation in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'll bring you some nice little bits over the coming week. Please stay safe and take care of yourselves, folks. Don't be a dick. And yeah, I'm going to see you all very soon. Thank you for listening to me fume today. Tra, babe. Tra, 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 tra.